This is the way spring comes to a small spot on the Arizona desert, with newly painted race cars glistening in the hot sun at the Phoenix International Raceway. You're looking at a live television picture just a few minutes before the engines are started for the first race of the season leading toward the Indianapolis 500. And who will be the man of 1970? Mario Andretti, A.J. Foyt, Al Unser? Well, they're all here, and the story begins very soon. But there's more live action today from a racetrack near the Atlantic Ocean in Hallandale, Florida. Let's move from this Western Sheriff's pony to another breed of horse at Gulfstream Park.
This is Gulfstream Park at Hallandale, Florida, just north of Miami, on a brilliant day, a spring-like day, for the 19th running of the Florida Derby. A record sum of more than $144,000 guaranteed for this race, one of the prime preambles to racing's Triple Crown. The Florida Derby before a near-record crowd this afternoon with a top field of 3-year-olds ready to run for prestige. Great prestige that always comes to the winner of the Florida Derby, and you'll see it live today.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Jim McKay speaking to you from Phoenix. And you know, in the almost 9 years that I've been the host of Wide World of Sports, this will be the first time that we brought you two different sports live on the same program. Here in Phoenix, it's just about a perfect afternoon. The temperature 80 degrees and literally not a cloud in the sky. Keith Jackson, how do things stand down in Florida?
Well, Jim, we can certainly match you in our weather. It's 80 degrees. Our track is fast. We neither have a cloud in the sky over this part of Florida as we get ready for the 19th running of the Florida Derby. And as many of you know, this is a prime barometer of the quality of the 3-year-olds. It'll go on into Thoroughbred Racing's Triple Crown, starting with the Kentucky Derby. We look for an outstanding event here this afternoon, a top race, and we hope you have the same in the Phoenix 150.
So it will be then on ABC's Wide World of Sports today. The first automobile race of the season leading to the Indianapolis 500 and the horse race leading to the Triple Crown as we move into springtime on ABC's Wide World of Sports. This is the initial point of the Arizona Land Survey in 1867. It's on a hill overlooking the Phoenix International Raceway at the point where the racetrack land meets an Indian reservation. Except for Hawaii and Alaska, Arizona is the most recent of all the states, joining the Union in 1912. The first men came here in the 14th century, the Hohokam Indians, who built some fine irrigation ditches, then seemed to vanish from the face of the earth. 500 years later, a little more than a century ago, a man named J.Y.T. Smith arrived. Since then, Phoenix has risen from the ashes of the old ditches like the legendary bird of old. It's one of the interesting stops as we span the globe, seeking the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, the human drama of athletic competition on ABC's Wide World of Sports. Brought to you today by Weyerhaeuser, the company that's working on tomorrow's ideas in pulp, paper, packaging, lumber, plywood, and other building materials. By Command, Wide World of Grooming Products for Men, featuring Command Tahitian Lime Antiperspirant to keep a man dry all day, and Command Hairspray to keep a man neat all day. And by the Lincoln Mercury Division and the cars that make Mercury your password for action in the 70s. We'll be back in a minute at the Phoenix 150.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
For the first time in 1970, the cry is heard across the land. The familiar cry of, "Gentlemen, start your engine." That was the voice of CM Charlie Alexander, the promoter of the race here, the Phoenix 150, 150 laps of this 1-mile track. There should be no scheduled pit stops, and there are the cars just about getting ready to move out. These machines made for only one purpose, to race, incapable even of starting themselves. The device must be inserted in the rear engines of all of these cars except one, there being one front engine car, before they are able to move. With the engines going now, they'll begin to move out. There is Mario Andretti, car number 1, last year's winner of the Indianapolis 500, and the USAC, U.S. Auto Club national champion. Beside him will be car number 2, Al Unser, the second fastest qualifier. And all the others moving out under this hot Arizona sun. A look from overhead from our camera situated on a nearby hill. Working with us this afternoon, as always in these race telecasts, will be my colleague, the editor of National Speed Sport News. Let's bring in now Chrissy Konamaki.
Thank you, Jim. Well, Phoenix is living up to its title of being in the Valley of Sun today. The race, Mario Andretti on the pole, as Jim said, but not with a new track record. Other Indianapolis winners in the field, Bobby Unser, and three-time Indianapolis champion A.J. Foyt, who said moments before the start that he is suspicious of his engine. He thinks he may have burned a piston, and he doesn't expect to be too good a competitor today. The wind has sprung up again. The flags are stout from the staff, and it could be a trouble. There could be trouble because of the wind. And now, back to you, Jim.
All right, Chris, and remember that this picture and all of this race will be coming to you live and in color on Wide World of Sports today as you're watching Andretti on the pole in the red car, and outside him Al Unser in car number 2, the blue one there. Let's bring in the other member of our broadcast team. Working in the pits today will be former Indianapolis 500 winner and now the public relations director of the new Ontario Raceway in California. That's going to be a fabulous place. Roger Ward. Roger?
Thank you, Jim. And the story from the pits is the fact that Roger McCluskey, the home state hero, will not be a part of this race. He had the misfortune of wrecking his car yesterday in a practice run. However, there will be lots of activity, and I'll be here to report it to you.
All right, thank you very much, Roger. And now let's try to set this field. Once again, the first row, Mario Andretti, car number 1, fastest qualifier at more than 128 miles an hour, and Al Unser in car number 2. He was second to Mario in the USAC race, the national championship last year, and earned that number 2. In the second row, car number 3 will be Bobby Unser, brother to Al and winner of the Indianapolis 500 in 1968. Next to him in that red, white, and blue car that looks very much like Captain America, car number 12 will be the veteran from Texas, Lloyd Ruby. Moving along to the third row, car number 7, the Orange Coyote, will be A.J. Foyt, who did have trouble in qualifying with his engine, although he was plenty fast enough. Next to A.J. Foyt in car number 22 will be Wally Dallenbach, the pride of New Jersey. The next row will be car number 10, Art Pollard, and number 9, Mike Mosley. In row 5, we'll have number 5, that's Gordon Johncock, and number 16, Gary Bettenhausen, son of the late famous Tony Bettenhausen. Getting set now, and we could get a start. It looks like we're going to get a start this time. When they come around, setting the rest of the field, we'll have Jimmy McElreath and George Snyder, Steve Krisloff and Bruce Walkup, Bill Simpson, Bruce Jacoby, Jerry Carl, Johnny Anderson, Ned Spath, Darrell Dockery, Carl Busson, Dick Simon, Ludwig Heimroth, and Nick DioGuardi. Chrissy Konamaki. If they don't go this time, maybe we can get a look at this race course.
That's right. DioGuardi seems to be having trouble with that number 68 Chevrolet, Jim, and the field may be one light when the green flag waves. There's a beautiful view of this 1-mile circuit. DioGuardi's crew is trying to get the car started.
Okay, they've been given one more lap, so go ahead, Chris.
We had a chance to chat with Al Unser yesterday about the circuit, and you can see the cars are proceeding through turn 1, where in racing areas they crowd the inside there before getting on the gas to carry out. As they approach turn number 2 under competition conditions, they get on the throttle here and let the car go very wide out to come within about 6 feet of this point at the end of the fence right there. It's close going right there. Then it's back on the gas down this straightaway to a point about in here where there's a little rise in the track. And this is a touchy spot because the car gets light going over it and they have to brake. And then as the car comes down, they must make certain that it's pointed straight. And then going into turn 3, it's a normal entry, crowding the inside of the turn, throughout turn 3 and the entry to turn 4. Exiting turn 4, where Roger McCluskey crashed yesterday, it's a little bit tricky. They come up and they head for the outside rail, and then make a left-hand bend, and they're off, Jim.
There's the green flag from starter Shim Malone, and into the first turn, it's Mario Andretti in car number 1 in the lead. Andretti quickly taking the lead. And car number 98, Johnny Anderson, has been signaled to come into the pitch.
It looks, Jim, as though the starter shaft may have been left into the car. We've got competition on the track now as they come off alternating turn 1.
Andretti and Al Unser taking the lead. Bobby Unser is in third place, but already there's a little space between him and the first 2 cars. So the 2 men who finished 1-2 in last year's USAC National Championship, Mario Andretti and Al Unser, are 1-2 right now. There's been a lot of talk that Al Unser just could have the fastest car of this year, potentially be a winner of the Indianapolis 500. Car number 68 has come into the pits.
There's the battle for the lead. close, and the two leaders, Jim, are pulling away from the rest of the field. Number 52, Jerry Carl of New Jersey, has pulled his car in the pit. The first race of the year bugs are already starting to show themselves.
And number 68, Nick Giambardi, also in the pit, so two cars are out of it already.
Follow Andretti's line below the yellow line in the corners, and Unser is not letting him pull away. Giambardi is trying to be started by pushing from his mechanics now and hopes to get into the competition.
And there goes Al Unser making a move, going into turn one, but he drops back behind Andretti. There's these two cars battling for the lead right now in the early going of the Phoenix 150 under a hot desert sun, first Indianapolis car race of the year.
The class is being shown by the leaders, Jim, as they're pulling away now to more than a 100-yard lead over the third-place car. Getting to the turn.
Here they
Car
are.
number 3, Bobby Unser, lies third, brother of Al.
Okay, it's Andretti and Al Unser. And then it's Bobby Unser. And then Lloyd Ruby. Lloyd Ruby in fourth position in the red, white, and blue racer. Number 12. Al Unser hanging right on the tail of Mario Andretti.
Quite a tribute to the crew behind Al Unser's car. It's a brand new automobile, Jim, one of 3 new cars in the race, and usually it takes a while for a new car to be this competitive. Andretti is driving the car which he won the Indianapolis 500 in last year and the national championship.
Okay, Bobby Unser is still third, but now Wally Dallenbach in car number 22 has moved past Lloyd Ruby into fourth place. First change of standing since the start of the race among the leaders.
And now the leaders are overlapping the slower cars, Jim.
That'll give you some idea of just how fast these cars are. There's a good idea of speed as they go past one of the slower cars. Getting a clocking here. We'll try to give you the speed on this. They come to the finish line. This is unofficial, but there goes Andretti in 29 5/10 seconds, which is 122.03 miles an hour. Another car is coming into the pits.
Dick Simon at number 44. Jim, he's a man who started racing here at a late age, an insurance broker, and he's got some flames coming out of the exhaust pipe. He's in a little bit of engine trouble there.
So it looks like the attrition rate will be high here in the first race of the season, which would figure with these comparatively untried cars.
That's Simon being worked in the car, consulting with his mechanic. The wind has sprung up, Jim, and it's blowing quite briskly. The drivers are going into a headwind, going down the main straightaway, and they're getting some help from the wind up the backstretch.
There is the leader, Mario Andretti, car number 1. Car number 2, interestingly, is second, and car number 3 is third. Makes it fairly simple. The Unser brothers, Al and Bobby, trailing Mario Andretti. Andretti out of turn 4 again and headed for the finish line. Yet another time. He has about a 25-30-yard lead over Al Unser. Third place is still Bobby Unser, then Wally Dallenbach, Lloyd Ruby, and Art Pollard in car number 10.
We have a 6-car grouping right behind the leaders there, and it's quite a battle going on in the back. But Andretti showing the class with the number 1 car, tried and proven machine, on a track that he has always had bad luck on here at the Phoenix International Raceway.
Remember, very soon we'll be going to Gulfstream Park in Florida for live coverage of the Florida Derby. Into the pits, you're looking at Dick Simon right now, trying to get him moving again, trying to get him back into the competition. Of course, he's lost plenty of time. Ludwig Heimroth in car number 55. He's a Canadian driver with a Chevrolet engine, by the way, into the pits.
It's amazing, Jim, how many cars have needed attention in such an early point in the race. We may not have but a few finishers when it's all over.
The leader in the race, however, is the pride of Nazareth, Pennsylvania, Mario Andretti, 30 years old now. He's joined those older people over 30. Born in Trieste, Italy. Came here when about 13 or 14 years old, but at that time he had already raced in Formula Junior in his native land. Second place, Al Unser, who is the younger of the two Unser brothers who are racing at the moment. Al is 31. Brother Bobby, who's in third place, is 36 years old.
Great things are expected of Al this year, Jim. He won 5 races last year after breaking his foot in a motorcycle fall, which kept him out of the Indianapolis 500. And because you can see the number 2 on his car means he was second in the championship. And he's pressuring that number 1 driver right now.
Here are the standings at the end of 10 laps. Car number 1, Mario Andretti, is first. Al Unser is second. Bobby Unser is third. Wally Dallenbach in 22 is fourth. Lloyd Ruby in number 12 is fifth. Then comes Art Pollard in car number 10. A.J. Foyt in car number 7, moving up a little. In car number 16, Gary Bettenhausen. In 9th place is car number 9, Mike Mosley. And in 10th place, rounding out the top 10, Gordon Johncock in car number 5. We'll be back in a minute at the Phoenix 150. Again, this is Jim McKay with Chrissy Katamaki speaking to you live from Phoenix, Arizona, where there's been a change in the lead. Al Unser nipped down underneath Mario Andretti and passed him on turn 1 just a few seconds ago. So Al Unser is now the leader in number 2, a blue racer, one of the favorites for this year's Indianapolis 500. Mario Andretti in car number 1 has dropped back to second place. Bobby Unser in car number 3 is still third. So it could be a most interesting afternoon. Al Unser in the blue and yellow stripe racer. Beautiful car.
That's that brand new car we spoke of. Unser seems to be having more trouble with the traffic in front of him, Jim, than Andretti did, and this is enabling Andretti to stay close. But when there's an opening, Unser does pull away from Mario.
There's the battle between the men, the battle between the cars, the battle between the engines. Both leaders at the moment are turbocharged Fords. As a matter of fact, the top 3 cars are Mario Andretti and Al Unser and Bobby Unser. A good look at the racing here in Phoenix. It's happening right now, right at this moment. We're also standing by for the Florida Derby. It's getting very close to post time down there. In fact, right now we're going to move some 3,000 miles to Gulfstream Park in Florida and to Keith Jackson.
Thank you very much, Jim, and our story of speed from Gulfstream Park, live from Hallandale, Florida. And we'll be back here for the official results, the time, and the purse. But right now we go back to the Phoenix 150. Here is Jim McKay.
All right. Thank you very much, Keith. Here we are back again at the Phoenix 150, where the leader is still Al Unser. In fact, Al in car number 2 has stretched his lead to about 4 seconds now over Mario Andretti. A look in the pits now.
And that's the engine you just saw on Bruce Wolcopp's car being worked on. He was the 7th driver to make a pit stop. A tremendous attrition rate in this race. Standings, Al Unser number 2, Mario Andretti number 1, Bobby Unser number 3, and Art Pollard in number 10 has moved to 4th place as we're about 35 miles into the competition.
Art Pollard's been moving very well in this race and has been crawling up just a little bit towards the leader. A.J. Foyt, on the other hand, who had been battling with Art Pollard and with Lloyd Ruby, has been dropping back.
The mechanics are trying to fix that Joe Hunt special for Bruce Wolcott. It's one of the few new cars in the race, beautifully turned out, but there's problems under the hood or under the trunk lid, depending on what you want to call it, with the engine in the back there.
Okay, Wally Dallenbach, who had been running with the leaders, dropped out just a few minutes ago. Roger Ward talked to him, and here is what Wally Dallenbach had to say.
What happened to your car? Well, what knocked us out was the exhaust manifold broke, and as a result, no blower pressure, so we had to drop out of the race. It's a shame. She was working real good. Was the car working to your satisfaction? Yeah, it was just right. We were running 4th, and Bobby was in front of me, and I felt I could have given a real good run for her, but I was just waiting for the second half of the race. I'd sooner be following Bobby at this part of the race and have him chasing me. So, but we was real strong. I thought we'd have had a real good chance today. But Wally, a real tough break. We'll be back.
A tough break for Wally Dallenbach, the pride of East Brunswick, New Jersey, out of the competition after running with the leaders. In first place is still car number 2, that is Al Unser in his brand new racing automobile, which you'll be seeing later in the year at the Indianapolis 500. If you have the luck to be there, should be a fantastic competition again this year, as always. He has about a 4-second lead over Mario Andretti, and there is a spin out right in front of the grandstand here, number 68, Nick DioGuardi, who had been in the pits a couple times, and that was a whole scramble. Cars trying to avoid him. Nobody has been hit seriously, but number 98 has stopped. So has number 68, 65, who is Bruce Jacoby. We're looking for the leaders, however, and it looks like only Gary Bettenhausen in car number 16 has been forced to stop by the accident.
Well, Jim,
there is fire coming now from car number 5, Gordon Johncock. That's Johncock's car that also got involved in this. The red flag is out. The race has been stopped. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars stopped right in front of us here in the home stretch at Phoenix.
Jim, what started this all was Nick DioGuardi, a young driver from California, spun on the main straightaway, and Gordon Johncock spun to avoid him, and then he was bounced off by several other cars. DioGuardi's car is back into Johncock's number 5. The fuel tank broke on John Cox's car. Now the firemen are trying to extinguish it, and this is one of those situations where these fires fed by the alcohol fuel are very hard to extinguish.
Excuse me, Chris.
All of the drivers seem to be out of the cars
Right.
and okay.
All of the drivers have gotten out. That fire on John Cox's car got out of hand a little bit, and as a matter of fact, it is still out of hand and blazing. An alcohol fire, which basically does not show red, is now showing red very much. It's a real big fire at this point. Another car is wedged into the side of it.
That was the number 68 Chevrolet driven by Diagardi. Again, all drivers got out by themselves and are okay. Gordon Johncock may have been singed a little bit because his car was the first to burst into flame. Bettenhausen at number 16 is okay. He's out of it. George Snyder at number 89 is out of it. And there's Gary Bettenhausen there.
Gary Bettenhausen, son of the late Tony, who, driving in a midget race last night, hurt his knee. He's now had another incident here. It was a very slow developing accident, Chris. You know, it was almost like slow motion, with first Diaguardi going, then Johncock, then some fuel and oil got spilled on the track, and very slowly, as we said, the other cars kind of spun to a stop. We would think that several of them might be able to get going again, although the number 98 car of Johnny Anderson has one wheel that is at a very funny angle, the left front wheel, and the number 12 car of Lloyd Ruby being carefully inspected by its pit crew right now. The ambulances are right on the scene, but as we indicated, nobody's getting into them to this point. There's a wide shot of the whole scene here. Some of that gasoline has run into the pits, and they're going to have to get that all dried up before they restart the race. Once again, there's been an accident as we continue our live coverage of the Phoenix 150, the first Indianapolis car race of the year. Nobody has been injured. The red flag has stopped the race temporarily. When they restart, the cars will be put in a single line and will go out and begin to race again.
Jim, the standings at 42 laps.
Excuse me, here is slow motion coming up of the accident. Now there's Diaguardi, car number 68, and there is 98, Johnny Anderson, coming off the wall, and here is Johncock on the rail. That's car number 5 getting wedged in there, and you see the other one spinning around in this kind of automobile ballet that fortunately turned out not to be a tragic one. Cars trying to avoid, go around the other cars that are involved. You see that the fire extinguishers are already on the racetrack while the accident is still finished, and the red flag was also out just that quickly from starter Shim Malone. There's Andretti going around and avoiding the other cars. As it happened, the leaders had just gone by before that occurred. Otherwise, they would have found it almost impossible not to get involved like everybody else. Now, there is not gasoline, but fuel from these racing cars. Basically, alcohol, right, Chris?
That's true. Methanol is the basic fuel used in all these cars. There's A.J. Foy talking with Goodyear's Bud Foreman. There's Diagardi's car being picked up on the boom of the truck. They used the roll bar to pick it up and remove the wreckage from the track. The 42nd lap was when the red flag came on. There's A.J. Foy, a good look at a three-time Indianapolis winner, having a narrow escape. Unser was the leader in car number 2. Andretti, some 5 seconds behind, second in car number 1. They both got through, as did third place Bobby Unser in car number 3.
And so did Art Pollard, who was in 4th place in the race in number 10. Lloyd Ruby, however, who was 5th in car number 12, was involved, and whether or not his car will be able to get restarted seems to be a question at this point.
Gary Bettenhausen was 6th in number 16. He's definitely out of it. His car suffered some suspension damage, wanging around. Incidentally, his knee was punctured by a 5/16-inch bolt in a midget racing crash at Manzanita Park last night, and he was driving with a stiff leg. So he's had a tough weekend. A.J. Foyt was lying 7th in car number 7. Johncock, whose car is definitely out of it, in car number 5, was lying 8th, and Mike Mosley, driving car number 9, was 10th. Again, it was at 42 laps that the red flag came out. It was the first incident of the race. It had been green flag going from the start to that point.
And there's 1 lap to the mile here, so that we are not anywhere near halfway into this race. There's a long way to go, and the race is restarted. The fire truck's still in the middle of the race course, as Al Unser, lead car, is pushed up to be at the head of that starting line. There is the remainder of Gordon Johncock's proud number 5 racer, Gilmore Broadcasting car, which is obviously finished for a good while. Car number 65 there is Bruce Jacoby's, and we will return to see what happens live here at Phoenix in another minute.
See the Academy Awards Tuesday, April 7th on ABC.
You want to come over? Get a minute, Ron.
Again, we return live to the Phoenix International Raceway, Phoenix, Arizona, where an accident has halted the running of this year's Phoenix 150, the first race of the Indianapolis car season. Car number 68 there was the car of Nick DioGuardi, and this is the car that you're looking at that started the whole thing. Nick spun on the home stretch, right in front of the grandstand, almost directly at the finish line, just before the finish line, and when he did, it started a whole chain reaction. Suffering the most was the car of Gordon Johncock, which got wedged between DioGuardi and the inside guardrail and caught fire and burned for some time before being extinguished. But there were a good many others, including two of the leaders, Lloyd Ruby in car number 12 and Gary Bettenhausen in car number 16, were also involved. As far as we've been able to find out, no drivers have been injured in this. Nobody got into the ambulance, and we have no word from the pits that anybody has been hurt. We'll be going down to Roger Ward, who is at this moment scurrying around making sure that everybody's okay, and we'll be having a word with somebody soon. Number 10 there is the car of Art Pollard, by the way, who is up among the leaders in the race. The official results are in Florida. For that, let's return to Gulfstream Park, live, and to Keith Jackson.
Well, Jim, we're certainly happy to say that we have no similar misfortune here at Gulfstream Park in Hallandale.
The truck pulling away from the scene where the car of DioGuardi is still sitting on the race course. A tremendous amount of dust and fire extinguishing material had to be dumped on this track, and now officially there are no injuries. As we had said, we saw the drivers walk away. We wanted to be doubly sure nobody had been burned or received any injuries that were not visible, but they're all okay, which is one bit of good news. How long it's going to take before the race will be restarted, we don't know, but again, the leader is Al Unser in car number 2. In second place is Mario Andretti, last year's winner of the Indianapolis 500, in car number 1. That's the car of Gordon Johncock right there, being lifted up by yet another wrecker to be taken away. Mario Andretti is second. Bobby Unser in car number 3 is third, and Art Pollard in number 10 is fourth. There's where the fire was, and not much left there, Chris.
No, that's true. You know, the cars in the United States Auto Club Racing are protected against fire. Their fuel is carried in fuel cells, but there's one vulnerable spot, and you can see the fuel pouring out under. It's called a return tank. It's behind the carburation system, and the overflow fuel that's not used by the engine is put into a little small tank under the rear end, which does not have a fuel bladder. And it was that tank that broke and allowed the fuel to escape on Johncock's car, which ignited and created that fire. And there is perhaps a $50,000 piece of equipment now relegated almost to junk, and you can see the fuel spilling out at that one point, at that sump tank, as it's called, at the rear end of the car. One of the vulnerable spots in racing, and I'm sure now attention will be turned towards making that particular section of today's modern racing car safer than it is.
There is some word in the pits from our colleague Roger Ward. Come on in, Roger.
Yes, Jim. I have Gordon Johncock with me here in the pits, and he's the boy that was in that fiery race car. Gordon, what happened?
Well, they had a spin out up on the center of the straightaway somewhere, and the sun being bad, I know they start this race so late in the afternoon. The sun's right in your eyes, and you can't see it almost until you're right onto it, and I got a slower car, and then started spinning, and somebody else got me from the rear.
You're not hurt at all?
No, not at all.
Well, glad to see you came out in good shape.
Roger?
Yes.
I wonder if Gordon's had a chance to talk to his bride since then. Has she recovered?
Gordon, have you had a chance to talk to your wife since the accident?
Yeah, she's okay now. A little excited for a while, but all right now.
Do you think that perhaps racing is a little tougher on the wives than on the drivers sometimes?
Well, I imagine so, quite a bit so, because we actually, I guess, are just used to this and don't think too much of it, really. They get a little excited for a while.
Well, Gordon, we'll be looking forward to seeing you at Indianapolis.
Thank you, Roger.
Okay, thanks very much, Roger. And the reason we brought up the question about Gordon Johncock's wife is that he's been very recently married, and she is, in fact, a brand-new bride. Well, there is the crew of the fire chief here cleaning up the area. And once again, we are not being at all fatuous in this case to be extremely complimentary to all the guys who work here on the safety battalion. If you saw the slow motion a little while ago of this accident, you noticed that many of the fire extinguishers were out while cars were still spinning on the track. Also, starter Shim Malone had the red flag out, I think, before the first car had even stopped spinning. So it's all been handled very efficiently, as is attested by the fact that nobody's hurt and that things are being cleaned up. The race, once again, will be restarted. And when it is restarted with the cars in a single line, at the head of that line, as they go nose to tail, will be Al Unser in car number 2, then Mario Andretti number 1, Bobby Unser number 3, and Art Pollard number 10. We'll return live and in color to Phoenix, Arizona in a minute. We're back live at Phoenix, Arizona. Jim McKay, Chris Economaki, and down in the pits is Roger Ward, who right now is standing with Gary Bettenhausen, a young man who's been involved in 2 accidents in about 18 or 19 hours. He was in one last night at a midget race. Roger, how's he doing?
Well, Gary, you've had a pretty tough weekend. How'd it look out there?
Well, Roger, I don't know. All I can say is I think there's about 6 cars out there that are running so slow. I don't think they've got any business running. And as I came up to lap 2 of these cars, the car right directly in front of me pulled out to pass the car that was running even slower in front of him. And as he moved out to pass that car, I was there, and he got into my left front wheel and then started spinning in front of me. And then I think everything else developed in back of us from there. But I was actually involved with the car that actually started spinning first.
Gary, what would be the solution to getting new young drivers an opportunity to run a couple of races before getting into Indianapolis?
Well, I don't know, Roger. This is a problem. You know that as well as I do. I don't know. I think just all the drivers should be just kind of gone over a little bit more closely to see exactly what experience they do have before they come and race with us. I don't know. It's really getting out of hand, I think.
Well, Gary, it's great to see that you're still walking around, even though you are hobbling a little bit. You have anything from up there, Jim?
This is Chris Economaki, Roger. Gary, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Gary, I know you had that little mix-up last night and your knee was struck by that bolt. What was it like driving your car with a stiff leg?
Well, actually, Chris, I had no problem at all because once I get in the car, my legs are perfectly straight in the car, and I don't have any problem unless I try to bend it.
Well, it was your braking leg, and I'm sure that at some point over here where you had to use the brakes.
Yes, but actually I can use my foot all right. I had no problem at all as far as driving the car.
What about your car, Gary? Will you have it ready for the Sears Point race next Saturday?
Oh, yes, there was hardly any damage done to our car at all as far as we could see, just looking at it.
Well, fine. Let's better luck for the rest of the year, Gary.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay. Well, there you are looking at a young man, Gary Bettenhausen, who had an accident last night in a midget race at another track here in the Phoenix area. Had another accident today, and from his expression you can tell his only reaction is one of disappointment that he can't race anymore today. Well, there was a big event at another racetrack yet earlier this week when a man went on a closed course 200 miles an hour for a lap for the first time in history. We're going to be showing you that when we return to Phoenix in another minute. Before we return to the live situation after the accident that's occurred here at Phoenix, here's a brief report on another notable achievement in motor racing that occurred this week. This was Buddy Baker, a top NASCAR stock car driver, on Tuesday of this week at the new 2.66-mile Alabama International Speedway in Talladega, Alabama. During runs conducted for transmission testing, Buddy became the first man in history to break the 200-mile-per-hour barrier on a closed race course, and you're watching him do it here in his winged Dodge stock racing car. At full speed right now, flat out at Talladega. The Talladega is an ultra-fast track, the fastest in the world, as a matter of fact, and on this run, Baker averaged 200.096 miles an hour. And incidentally, ABC will be televising the Alabama 500 from Talladega live on Sunday, April 12th, with the local area down there blacked out, of course. Out of turn 3 and on the high banking going into turn 4. Part of the reason for the high speeds at Talladega, of course, is the exceptionally high banking, which is 33 degrees. Buddy Baker achieved this awesome lap after several warm-up tours of the course, and afterwards he came back out again and did even better, 200.447, and there he is in the home stretch. Buddy Baker at 200. After the run, Roger Baer, the Speedway's public relations director, asked Buddy how it felt to be the first man to break the 200-mile-per-hour barrier.
Gosh, it's the most wonderful feeling I've had in a long, long time. There's something that nobody can ever take away from you, being the first guy to run 200 miles an hour on a closed course circuit, and gosh, I'm just tickled to death.
Buddy, the racetrack is different than most other racetracks in the world in that it's banked 33 degrees, 5 stories high are the banking, and it's 2 2/3 miles around. That's bigger than any closed course that you run wide open like this.
Well, believe me, when you're running 200, it feels just like it's flat because it takes every bit of the banking to run this speed, and we're just tickled to death to be able to come down here and break the record. Thank you.
Okay, Buddy Baker, first man in the world to average 200 miles per hour on a closed race track, and just delighted about it. Another reminder that on April 12th, which is a Sunday, you'll be seeing a live automobile race from Talladega, from that very racetrack on ABC. That'll be the Alabama 500 from Talladega, Sunday, April 12th, with the local area down there blacked out. While we have a moment, we'd like to remind you about another subject. This is the year of the census. You know, 1970, every 10 years, America counts its numbers. And if you haven't received your census form in the mail, you should be doing so any day. The mail walkout, of course, affected a lot of the deliveries on that. But this is the year for America to take an account of itself, and don't forget to fill out your 1970 census form. It's very important. Again, we're looking at the live scene in Phoenix, Arizona, where an accident has stopped the running of the Phoenix 150, but stopped it temporarily. We're getting closer and closer now to the moment when the race cars will be restarted. They're still brushing debris and the powder that was used to extinguish the fires from the pit area and from the race course.
It's not going to be easy for the drivers once the race gets underway, Jim, because the sun is setting at the end of the front straightaway, and you can see by the long shadows of the mechanics standing by the cars that the drivers are going to be going directly into this burning desert sun, making the entry into turn 1, and it's tough on the vision. Some of the drivers start with many layers of lenses in their goggles, and as they become oil-coated and grease-coated, they peel them off and throw them away so that the vision is improved as the race progresses. But this sun is going to be a problem. It has been, as Gordon Johncock said, and it's going to be more of a problem as this race unfolds.
Again, we would remind you that just 44 laps have taken place out of 150 in this race, so there's still a long way to go. The leader is Al Unser, 30-year-old brother of the elder Bobby Unser, the former Indianapolis 500 winner. Mario Andretti, last year's winner of the Indy 500, is in second place. Tomorrow on ABC, by the way, will feature another outstanding sports doubleheader. At 1:55 Eastern Time, it's game number 3 in the best-of-7 NBA playoff series between the Baltimore Bullets and the New York Knickerbockers. The Knicks now with a 2-0 lead over Baltimore, but both games have been sensationally close. They had a double overtime game in New York on Thursday night, and then another close one last night in Baltimore. Then, tomorrow at 4 Eastern and Pacific Time, 3 Central Time, the American Sportsman will feature an exciting 3-part show, including hunts for grizzly bear and ruffed grouse on locations ranging from Maine to Alaska. So be sure to join us for NBA basketball and the American Sportsman tomorrow on ABC. This game will not be seen in New York, by the way.
Jim, the long delay here because of the accident has given the mechanics on the number 22 Dallenbach Offenhauser and the number 99 Walkup Offenhauser time to repair whatever troubles they had. A repair job that takes over 5 or 10 minutes in a championship race is no sense doing because the car is going to be way back. But now, with this delay, they've managed to fix these cars, and car number 22 Wally Dallenbach and car number 99 Bruce Walkup are expected to join the field when the race restarts. They, of course, will be several laps behind.
Again, if you've just joined us, ABC's Wide World of Sports today has been bringing you live coverage of the Phoenix 150 automobile race, first race of the season, leading to the Indianapolis 500. And on the left there is the wife of Mario Andretti, who's in second place in this race.
She's here with the two Andretti youngsters, which must have been quite exciting for the boys to see Dad thread his way through that tangle. The crash happened directly in front of the starting line in full view of a large grandstand crowd of spectators here, and everyone got really a bird's-eye view of it. There was no question as to what happened. It happened in everyone's lap.
Including the wives. The wives get about as close to the pits here at Phoenix as ladies are allowed to get at Indianapolis car-type racing. You know, women are not allowed in the pits, which is exactly the opposite of European Grand Prix-type racing, where women are everywhere, taking lap times and actually working on the cars. But here at Phoenix, they have a special grandstand that's just on the other side of a wire fence where all the wives are allowed to sit.
And that, of course, that grandstand had a perfect view of the goings-on as well, and I'm sure that many of those wives, especially when the flames broke out, had their moments. The women, I guess, behind these men live a rather difficult life. We had a chance to chat with a few of them before the race, and they do chew their fingernails between the green and the checkered flags.
And as I was saying a moment ago, this is not the only live event we've had on Wide World today. We've also seen live coverage of the Florida Derby, the horse race leading to the Triple Crown that took place at Gulfstream Park, over on the Atlantic Ocean, a little ways from here, about 3,000 miles from the desert, and Phoenix, Arizona. By the way, a lot of people pack picnics and come out and sit on the side of that mountain, as you can see, to watch the goings-on. They have to pay to get on that mountain, however. Roger Ward, down in the pits, has one of the Unser brothers. Roger?
Jim, I've got Al Unser with me, and of course he's leading the race. Al, how's your car working?
Very well, Roger. Everything seems to be working quite well, and I just hope that it lasts all day and everything goes the rest of the day like it is right now.
Is this your race strategy, get out in front and go away?
Well, I don't know about the strategy. I like to be out in front, but as you know, I'd like to be out in front when the checkered flag falls, too.
Is this the car you're going to use at Indianapolis?
Yes, it is, Roger. It's one of our brand new cars. In fact, it's the first race for it this year, and our new sponsor, Johnny Lightning, and I think that we have a real good team.
Well, Al, we hear a lot of great things about you, and we're expecting great things from you the rest of the year, and a lot of good luck today.
Al,
thank you, Roger.
Al, Chris Economaki up here in the booth. You hear me, Al?
Yes, I do, Chris.
Al, the car was running extremely well. For a new car, this is rather strange. How much testing had you done with this car before today's race?
Well, Chris, we've run around 600 miles prior to this race, testing miles. We run about 200 miles here at Phoenix and some at Hanford, California, and that was about all we've done.
You were behind Mario Andretti for 10 miles on the track. Was there any reason why you didn't take the lead earlier?
Well, I couldn't pass him earlier.
Look, Al, this is Jim McKay now in this little crossfire here. I have another question for you. Where were you when the accident happened? What was the first you saw of it?
Well, I was coming out of number 4 turn, Jim, and all the cars were sideways, and a few of them were already stopped, and a few of them were still rolling, and I didn't quite know which way to go, and finally I picked a couple of spots, and it paid off, but I don't think I was right in the biggest part of it, but it sure looked bad from where I was sitting.
Well, you took good care of that brand new race car.
I hope so. I better.
Okay. Thanks very much, Al.
Hi.
That's Al Unser, the leader of the race at this point. 44 laps have gone by. There is his car, blue with yellow lightning on it. Real nice, good-looking paint job, Chris.
It's a new concept and design, Jim. They've narrowed the rear tread on the car, and four-wheel drive is not allowed on the USAC circuit this year, so all the cars must be two-wheel drive, either rear or front, and all the cars in today's race are rear drive, and all but one have their engines mounted in the rear. But this is a new concept. The car is owned by Parnelli Jones, is built by George Bignotti, who for many years was A.J. Foyt's crew chief, and has a magnificent record in national championship competition. And the experience of this crew to build a brand new car using new design concepts and have it come out in its very first race and lead the way it has is a testament to their talents in this field.
Okay, they're still not quite ready to restart the race here, so we will leave you for a moment, but return to Phoenix in a minute. The cactus continue to stand as sentinels on the Arizona desert on a beautiful afternoon. Oh, there's the deputy sheriff's horses. There's a real western flavor to this racetrack. They kind of patrol the mountains, as you can see in the background, and the Picnic Mountain, sometimes called Rattlesnake Mountain, not by the picnickers. That's just to the side of the racetrack. Yes.
Some of those mounted patrols are members of the Sacaton Indian tribe, whose reservation lies just on the other side of these mountains, known as the Estrella Mountains, the Star Mountains here, studded with the manzanita bushes.
Okay, well, right now we're going to take another look, for those of you who were not with us earlier, at exactly what happened here and what caused the race to be red flagged, to be stopped temporarily at the end of lap 44. Here it is. Car number 68 started it all. That was Nick DioGuardi, and now you see others. Gordon Johncock hitting the rail right now. You see his wheel coming off. He was the most seriously injured car, although he himself was not hurt. None of the drivers were hurt. As cars continue to spin, you can see that the yellow flag first goes out, and here come the fire extinguishers while cars are still spinning and taking evasive action. There's Al Unser, the leader, going through.
Mike Mosley right in front of him, Jim.
And here's Mario Andretti threading his way through successfully. The red flag out at this point. And once again, we would point out that everything was done very swiftly here. First, the yellow flag instantly from Shim Malone, the starter. Then the fire extinguishers were out on the track while spinning was still taking place. Then the red flag came out right away as soon as Shim could see that this was more serious than it first appeared. It was a An accident that took place almost in the slow motion as you saw it right here. It was not a fast, spectacular thing, and once again, nobody was hurt. The race will be restarted. Now, perhaps you also did not see the running of the Florida Derby, which was on Wide World of Sports live a little bit earlier. That is the horse race that leads to the running of the Triple Crown, the traditional preview. Took place a long way from here at Gulfstream Park on the beaches of the Atlantic Ocean. Let's go to the race replay now. George Riggs. All right, that's the way it happened then in the 1970 Florida Derby, which was televised live on Wide World of Sports just a little more than a half hour ago. Again, now we have returned to Phoenix, Arizona, where the race is still in a state of suspended animation. Everything is stopped here. They are still clearing out the debris from the accidents and the various things that were used to stop the fire, to put out the blaze, and to get things under control here. The race will be restarted, however, and when the race is restarted, we'll be right here, standing by as we are now in Phoenix, Arizona. We return again to Phoenix, Arizona, Phoenix International Raceway Live. This is Jim McKay reporting with racing expert Chrissy Kanamaki. The official word is that the race should be restarted in less than 5 minutes now.
Jim, we're happy to restate that there were no injuries, physical that is, mechanical, plenty of injuries, a lot of cars torn up. The race will be restarted single file, and the first 2 laps, which will be counted, will be under the yellow flag, and there will be no passing allowed. This to brush off some of the chemicals and materials used to extinguish the fire and blot the oil and other fluids that were spilled in the crash area. It'll be Al Unser in car number 2, the leader. Right behind him in car number 1, the national champion and last year's Indianapolis winner, Mario Andretti, in second place. Then Steve Krisaloff, the youngster from New Jersey, in car number 92, a lap behind, will be lining up third. Steve's got a rooter in the pits. His younger sister, who's a student at Arizona State and considered one of the top female rodeo performers in the Southwest, is here watching her big brother drive. Dio Guardi, incidentally, was in there in the 4th running, so to speak, and it was ironic that he was the one driver who could not be around when the green flag waved. His car was bulky, if you recall, at the start, but he got in later, unfortunately. Then there's Jim McElreath, who was a lap down in car 74. Bobby Unser, lying third, will be next in the lineup in car number 3, and then it'll be Art Pollard in car number 10, who is 4th. Darrell Dockery of Phoenix is making his first championship racing start in car number 62, will be next in the lineup, and then it'll be Lloyd Ruby, or would have been Lloyd Ruby, who was 5th, but his number 12 car is out of the action. That's the way they're going to go to the line when the race is restarted.
I knew we couldn't resist, by the way, with the race stopped here. Eventually, Chris, getting to the background music you're now hearing, which is, of course, by the time we get to Phoenix. We get to Phoenix, all right, but we have trouble getting the races finished here. We came here last fall and had a real good race going when it rained and things had to be stopped. We came out today and made a mistake. There's a saying that you should never say never. Well, we came out and said, well, the race will never be stopped today because there's not a cloud in the sky. The race was stopped. A reminder here that tomorrow afternoon we'll be in New York's Madison Square Garden, where it never rains, for the NBA playoff game between the New York Knickerbockers, led by the league's most valuable player, Willis Reed, and the Baltimore Bullets with Wes Unseld and company. This will be game number 3 in their best-of-7 series, which currently stands at the Knicks 2 and the Bullets no. The Bullets with their backs to the wall in that series. So be sure to join us at 1:55 Eastern Time tomorrow for coverage of the NBA playoffs here on ABC. The game will not be seen in New York. And now let's take a quick look forward to next week on ABC's Wide World of Sports. Next Saturday at 5 o'clock Eastern and Pacific Time, 4 o'clock Central Time. First of all, the Sebring 12-hour Grand Prix of Endurance from Sebring, Florida. Mario Andretti and actor Steve McQueen led the outstanding list of entries in this grueling race counting toward the World Manufacturers Championship. You'll be seeing that next Saturday on Wide World. You'll also be seeing the NCAA Swimming and Diving Championship from Salt Lake City, Utah. The nation's leading collegiate swimmers and divers competing for both individual and team honors in this annual event. The all-powerful Indiana squad, led by Mark Spitz, will be attempting to retain the title they won last year. And now we are still live at Phoenix, Arizona, and the trees begin to tremble just a little bit as the sound of racing engines fills the air. The race is going to be restarted. Remember, they'll be in single file when they restart, and that's going to make it a brand new race.
That certainly is. We've seen some great mechanical work done. The crew of car number 12, that car driven by Lloyd Ruby and owned by Denver sportsman Bill Daniels, has made emergency repairs and is reported back to the line. And Lloyd Ruby, a two-time winner here at Phoenix International Raceway, will be in the competition when the green flag waves.
Okay, the field, although it could have been started nose to tail, is pretty much spread out because of some of the cars having a little bit of difficulty getting underway. The pace car is out in front of car number 2, the one of Al Unser. He's the leader in the race. Just behind him is Mario Andretti in car number 1. And in third position, car number 3, brother Bobby Unser. Remember, Al has never won the Indianapolis 500. Bobby, who's in third place, has. Al Unser finished second in the USAC National Championship last year, and the year before he finished third behind brother Bobby and Mario Andretti. So this could be Al Unser's year, and he'd sure like to get this race under his belt and have it a winner.
Great things are expected of Al. Some of the drivers are going to have to start in the pits because they were in the pits when the accident took place. And they include Bruce Wolcott in number 99, Wally Dallenbach at number 22, if he can make it, and Ned Spath in car number 51. And they're all going to be several laps off the pace.
There are just 11 cars on the racetrack right now, so that gives you some idea of how many have dropped out. There's car number 99 of Bruce Wolcott. Turbocharged Offenhauser in the pits being fanned. You saw that.
The fanning, Jim, is an interesting little ritual that prevails. The nitromethanol that is used to spice the fuel, so to speak, is very tough on the eyes, and it's an acrid-smelling thing. And when the car is motionless, it sometimes tends to overcome the driver. And, of course, when he's running, it only overcomes the driver that's behind him, not to himself. And they're blowing the fumes away while that car's engine idles in the pits.
The yellow flag is still out as they try to get the cars in order for this restart of the Phoenix 150, in which 46 laps have now gone by out of 150.
Wally Dallenbach's number 22 has been pushed off and is rejoining the field.
So as you indicated earlier, it's kind of a break for Wally. Wally was out of the race, it appeared before, but he's had a good long, what's it been, a half an hour or more wait, and that has enabled him to get his car fixed and back in the competition.
It had a broken exhaust header and apparently required some welding to get it back in running trim.
You're looking at Mario Andretti right now in the red car number 1. Number 92 there is a back marker driven by Steve Krisloff. He's not really in the running.
You wonder, Jim, whether any of the drivers are rattled at this point over a repetition of this happening. It was very fortunate that no one was injured.
Starter Jim Malone is now giving them one lap, and a number of the drivers hold up one finger to indicate that they comprehend that they got the signal. There's number 1 Andretti, and the other cars moving through in tight close-up.
Jim, the starting lineup was taken back one lap to 41 laps. And these laps are being counted, so we're now on lap number 43, I believe, and when the green comes out, we'll be approaching lap number 44. And now they're starting to pick up speed.
You saw starter Jim Malone waving them to go around to try to get on the back of that pack and get in place because he wants the race restarted. Coming through turns 3 and 4 of the pack. And this is the green flag. The green flag has out. The race is restarted, and it's Al Unser in first place. Mario Andretti in second. Just as they were when the race was on before, Al Unser and Mario Andretti moving quickly away from the rest of the pack. Al Unser with tremendous power in that new car of his. We said when we came on the air that this race could be a kind of a preview of Indy, and certainly that seems to apply to that new car of Unser's, doesn't it, Chris?
That's right. It's doing remarkably well for a first-time effort, as we said before. Andretti hanging on with last year's championship car, and now Art Pollard is trying to move into third place by passing Bobby Unser in the number 3 car, about 100 feet behind Andretti. Al Unser has the racetrack to himself. It's a clear field, but he's already starting to run into some traffic, and here we have that.
Now here's Pollard. Pollard in the red, white, and blue striped car. You're watching in color on the right of your screen, trying to overtake Bobby Unser, the former Indianapolis 500 winner, and the USAC national titleist in the same year of 1968. And that's going to be a little bit of an automobile race there. Here they are.
Unser's car is a turbocharged Ford Eagle, and Pollard's car is a turbocharged Offenhauser. The two different power plants there competing for this number 3 position.
Art Pollard was something of a latecomer to the USAC trail. He's only been around a comparatively few years in the big time, and yet he's 42 years old. Did most of his racing for most of his life up in the Pacific Northwest, but has really come to the fore in the last couple of years. Drove one of the turbine cars which had such bad luck in Indianapolis.
He's a fine fine race driver. He's had his share of bumps, too. Jim, he was seriously burned in a crash during his career. A great tribute to the old life begins at 40 adage.
He sure is. 42-year-old Art Pollard taking over third position from Bobby Unser. Al Unser in the lead and really beginning to stretch it out again very quickly. Mario Andretti is second, Pollard now third, and Bobby Unser fourth. Lloyd Ruby is fifth. Looked for a while like he might be out of this race. He was involved in the crash that took place. They got his car in pretty good shape, it looks like.
And now Pollard seems to be gaining on Andretti, Jim, for second place.
So the race at this moment is in the person of Art Pollard, member of his own racing team this year, the Art Pollard Racing Team. Formerly driven for Andy Granatelli, and now is gaining on Mario Andretti, who this year, again, is driving for Andy Granatelli.
Andretti perhaps has the busiest year of any racing driver in front of him. He's competing not only in USAC National Championship competition, but in international Formula One races, hoping for the World Championship, and in long-distance events counting for the World Manufacturer's title. He'll be busy practically every weekend all summer long, this boy Andretti.
Art Pollard has never really had the selection of cars that he has this year. His racing team has 3 Indianapolis cars that they're preparing. They also have their own stock car and their own sprint car. But he will have his choice of the 3 Indy cars. This one looks pretty good right now, as he gains on Mario Andretti. Al Unser's just running away from everybody, a couple hundred yards in front. So, thinking forward to the Indianapolis 500, keep in mind Al Unser and that wonderful new car of his that, as we say, is running away from the field, and Art Pollard in one of his 3 new cars right here, who is also doing extremely well, right behind Mario Andretti. There's Andretti. And Pollard now seems to be slowing down all of a sudden. Whether he got held up by another car, whether he's actually slowing down, we can't tell for sure, but he's dropped back about 50 yards. There he is, behind Andretti, and he was right on the tail of Mario.
You know, he's in a tough position, Jim. You want to pass Andretti, but he can't make the moves he'd like to make because Unser's right behind him, and should he make a slip, he'll lose the number 3 position.
Right, that is Bobby Unser right in back of Pollard now. There you see the arrow pointing to Pollard's car, number 10. As Chris indicated, Unser's right behind him and Mario Andretti up ahead.
Lloyd Ruby is 5th in number 12, Jim A.J. Foyt 6th in number 7, Mike Mosley 7th in number 9, and McElreath is 8th in number 74.
Okay, and we'll be back for more live coverage in a minute.
Hey, Floyd, look, a glass truck. Say, fella, is that your glass truck?
No, it's one of Ford's all-new Louisville line. I'm driving into a big truck show. Are all of them glass? No. This is a special display model to show off things like this reinforced fiberglass hood. Strong, premium steel frame.
Down stuff.
Talk about quick maintenance. Color-coded air tubing. Easy to service electric.
That is car number 62, driven by Darrell Dockery, coming into the pits as the attrition continues here at Phoenix in the Phoenix 150. We're speaking to you live. The race was stopped at one point because of an accident for a long period of more than a half an hour. 56 of the 150 laps have now been completed, and the leader is still Al Unser in car number 2. Mario Andretti in number 1 is second. Art Pollard in car number 10 is third. Bobby Unser in car number 3 is fourth. And Lloyd Ruby in car number 12 is fifth and beginning to move up.
Al Unser going by George Snyder in the only roadster car in the race, a front-engine Max and Jeffries special. Nothing's stopping this boy Al Unser today, Jim.
Al Unser, 30 years old, from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Father of 2 daughters and a son. Brother Bobby has 2 sons and 2 daughters, so he's one ahead of him in that competition. Al younger by 5 years than Bobby. Al Unser won the Pikes Peak Hill Climb in 1964 and 1965, but Brother Bobby won that about 7 or 8 times. In fact, the Unser brothers monopolized it for a long while.
And their father before them.
Right. And once again, we'll be back to the Phoenix 150 live in a minute.
One wilting afternoon, Olive, Bean, and...
A look from high overhead at the running of the Phoenix 150, live and in color from the Phoenix International Raceway in Arizona. At the end of 61 laps, the leader is Al Unser of Albuquerque, New Mexico, in his car number 2, a brand new race car being prepared for this year's Indianapolis 500. There he is, and he has a good long lead We're going to try to get a clock on this and see exactly how much in seconds he has over second place Mario Andretti, last year's Indianapolis 500 winner. The clock will start when Al Unser goes past the finish line, and then it'll stop when Mario Andretti goes past the finish line. There we go. As you can see, 5.9 seconds, the unofficial lead that Al Unser has over Mario Andretti. Andretti himself is fairly well ensconced in second place at the moment, but a tremendous battle for third has begun to shape up. That would be, and there it is, among car number 10 in third place at the moment. That's Art Pollard. And then number 3, Bobby Unser. And then 12, Lloyd Ruby. Lloyd Ruby, who's had a lot of luck on this Phoenix racetrack. He drives very well here. 3 cars within just a few yards of each other, coming into the home stretch. Remember, it's Pollard in front, and then Bobby Unser, and then Lloyd Ruby. Real good racing here. Out of the sun now. They were driving into the sun until they got to that turn, and now it'll be at their back as they go down the home stretch and into that little dog leg they have. Now into turns 3 and 4, and as they come out of 4, that sun will blast pretty much into their eyes. And we've just gotten word from New York, no matter how long it takes, we are going to stay on the air live on ABC's Wide World of Sports until the race is over. We try whenever physically possible not to start something we cannot finish. There you see a message being put on the board for Mario Andretti. I think it's telling him that he's 4 seconds over Art Pollard for second place.
That's a positive sign. You know, they could give him a minus so many seconds from the lead. Right. Keeping his confidence up, Chip. Fine race for that number 3 spot.
I don't know whether you're familiar with the USAC point score system, but you get 2 points for every mile of the race that you win. And on a total point basis, Lloyd Ruby's won 2,355 points on this racetrack, and the closest man to him, Mario Andretti, is about 800 points behind him.
Ruby has a great record here at this track. He's won twice and has had many high finishes, Jim, and he likes this particular racetrack. He's been sort of snake-bitten at most of the other tracks on the USAC circuit.
Particularly at Indianapolis in the 500. I'll never forget his line to you after his unfortunate gas tank incident last year, Chris, when he said, "Lady Luck just is never with me at this place." Well, Lady Luck seems to have been with him here.
For the A.J. Foyt fans, he's back in the pack, trading positions with Mike Mosley in car number 9, Jim.
Okay, Mario Andretti now 5 seconds, as you see, to the good over Art Pollard, who's in third place, immediately followed by Bobby Unser. And there they come, the battle for third. Number 10 is Pollard, number 3 Bobby Unser, and in 5th place, and right with them is Lloyd Ruby in car number 12. So if anything should slow down those 2 cars up in front, Al Unser and Mario Andretti, there would be one heck of a fight for the lead. The race goes on live with 67 laps going by out of 150.
That sort of tells a story there, Jim, that they gave him a +5. As I said before, they didn't give him minus anything. Apparently, they've given up on Mario catching Al Unser. He just doesn't have the steam to match Unser's number 2, Johnny Lightning Special, and they want him now to hold second place.
And, of course, he can sit there and wait for a good while to see exactly what happens to Al Unser being in a brand-new race car. How far it can go, nobody knows yet. We'll be back in a minute for further live coverage of the Phoenix 150. Again, we're back live, and there is Al Unser leading the Phoenix 150 very comfortably on the 60th lap out of 150. A message here for our local affiliates around the country. Our plans have changed here a bit. Wide World of Sports is going to run late, but we will be giving you local stations a station break here very shortly, right around 6:30. Then we will continue with our live coverage of the race until its conclusion. Looking through the fence that guards the spectators in the grandstand from any possible action on the track. And now a split screen. There's the leader, Al Unser, on the top, and underneath the battle for third place among car number 10, Art Pollard, number 3, Bobby Unser, and number 12, Lloyd Ruby. In between, and not visible at this moment, well in between these two, the one car here and the other set of cars, is the second place car driven by Mario Andretti. There is Pollard again in third place, moving at just a little bit over Bobby Unser, but Bobby hanging right there with him. Could Bobby Unser perhaps be biding his time at all, do you think, Chris?
Well, he's working on Art Pollard. Unser's a very aggressive competitor, and at this point he sees his brother running away. I think he just doesn't have it enough steam to get by. He's been trying on several occasions. He is here, moving to the outside. And, of course, again, he's got Lloyd Ruby right behind him, and that puts him in a difficult position. Now, there he tries down on the inside. He just can't muster enough steam to get by. It depends now. First race of the season. Some of these drivers have been undergoing physical conditioning throughout the winter. It's a very tiring course to drive here at Phoenix with a lot of turning. Which driver's in the best physical condition can do the best job with this machine before it's all over?
Well, perhaps age could enter into that also. The car in the middle of this battle for third place, Bobby Unser, is a 36-year-old man. However, the fellows in front of him and in back of him, Art Pollard and Lloyd Ruby, are each about 42. So, two of the oldest drivers on the circuit, in fact.
Approaching the halfway mark, Jim. It's Al Unser, Mario, Pollard, brother Bobby Unser, 4th, Lloyd Ruby. A.J. Foyt is now 6th, Mike Mosley is 7th. Jim McElreath, the Texas driver, is 8th, the number 74. Steve Krisaloff is 9th, the number 92. And George Snyder in the Roadster is 10th, car number 89.
We have reached the halfway mark in the race. 75 laps have gone by. The leader is still Al Unser. 2nd place, Andretti. 3rd place, Art Pollard. Followed extremely closely by Bobby Unser and Lloyd Ruby. The heat's still very much a factor, as Chris indicated, in the race, because out here in Arizona it's just 4:30 in the afternoon. There's a lot of sun and warmth left. And there you saw Shim Malone on the top of your screen signaling to a car to move over.
The wind seems to have sprung up a little bit, Jim. The pennants and banners around the circuit are now standing straight out from their staffs. And this, of course, makes it more difficult for the drivers. Here we have Mario in the pits, coming in car number 1. Mario Andretti, the 2nd place man in the pits, pointing to the rear of his car. What the trouble is, we do not know, but the Granatelli crew, a new crew chief, Mario riding this year with new people on the car. And if the car is stalled...
Remember, this is happening under the green flag, so that precious seconds are flying by as Mario Andretti is in the pits. This means that Al Unser still is the leader, but in 2nd place now is Art Pollard in car number 10. In 3rd place is brother Bobby Unser, and in 4th place is Lloyd Ruby. A disappointing afternoon it looks like it's going to be for Mario Andretti, the defending USAC national champion. Running in 2nd place, seem to have no problems, nobody near him. There you see him inset in the screen as the race goes on without him and around him.
The dejected Mario Andretti. The trouble with the left-hand corner of the car, it's apparently engine problems, Jim. They are not concerned with fueling it, not concerned with changing tires. It's something to do with the turbocharged Ford power plant. As you can see, the mechanic's hands in the inset there working on some part of that engine.
Mario Andretti, who is going to have an even busier year than usual this year, he's going to try to drive as much as he can, not only on the USAC Trail, but also on the Grand Prix circuit. His next race in Grand Prix will be the Grand Prix of Spain, he was telling me this morning, and then he's going to race also at Monaco, the first time he's ever been there, a race that he has not been able to be in the past because of qualifying at Indianapolis, and he told me that is one race he would truly love to win.
Well, Jim, it's been determined that it's magneto trouble, the ignition, and you know, these magnetos act up on a hot day, and we wonder if this will be an isolated case or will a pattern develop, because when it gets hot on the racetrack and one magneto goes, it's usually followed by another one and perhaps a third one failing before it's all over and done with.
Okay, just to bring you up to date on our plans, a few stations around the country, and you at home too. We're going to do a commercial here very shortly, and then after that we're going to do the station break, and then we'll go on with the race until it finishes. So that's the lineup for the next few minutes, gentlemen. And there is Mario, restarted and going back on the racetrack, but that's cost him a lot. Roger Ward's down in the pits. See if he can get a hold of one of the mechanics from Mario's car. If you can, Roger, go ahead and we'll come down to you. Looks like Roger's ready. Okay, Roger, go ahead.
Can you tell us what happened to the automobile or what his problem is?
Well, the engine just stuttered and died, possibly a vapor lock. We don't know for sure. In all the confusion, we can't tell, but most likely vapor lock.
Is that why he came into the pits?
Yes, the engine died.
And you just put some fuel in it and got it running, you know?
Well, we didn't put any fuel in it. We just cooled the fuel pump down a little bit and started again.
Well, he's a little out of the run for the lead now, but he's still got a good chance to finish well up.
Well, there's a lot of race left, and Mario's a good driver, so with a little luck, maybe we can still finish well.
Okay, back to you, Jim McKay.
Okay, Roger, thanks very much. Roger Ward talking with Vince Granatelli, the crew chief of Mario Andretti's car and brother of the well-known Andy Granatelli, who owns the car. Lloyd Ruby has now moved into second place. He has passed Art Pollard. And we'll be back at Phoenix, Arizona for the continuation of the race in another minute. We're back again at Phoenix, Arizona live, and there's the duel for third place between Art Pollard and Lloyd Ruby. A tremendous race there. Cars number 10 and 12. Number 10 is Art Pollard. Number 12 is Lloyd Ruby. There's the leader, number 2, Al Unser. It is now the Unser brothers running 1 and 2. Al Unser is first, Bobby Unser is second, and Al Unser is moving up on the third place car, trying to lap him. Mario Andretti has come into the pits again and is out of the race for this afternoon.
Bobby Unser seems to have picked up some speed and moved out to a commanding lead over Art Pollard, who was about there to be lapped by Al Unser, the leader.
And Lloyd Ruby has moved a good 50 yards out in front of Art Pollard. So it is Lloyd Ruby, a good third now, following the Unser brothers, Al and Bobby. Into the pits, another car. Number 51 is Ned Spath.
That's
a word with Mario Andretti with Roger Ward. Okay.
Well, Mario, what happened to your automobile out there?
Dropped the valve. But this is a sudden thing, and I'm not surprised at having problems at Phoenix. I've always had, and someday I'll break the jinx. But just glad that I'm out all in one piece and the car's
Was the car performing up to your expectations?
Not really. We were having a little problem with the rear suspension, and that's why I had to drop off from the early pace. So I was just hanging on. I could hold on second, all right.
Jim, you have any questions from up there?
Well, Mario, it wasn't as long an afternoon as you would have liked. Apparently the Easter egg didn't bring you too much luck. I saw you had an Easter egg, red, white, and blue with a tiny little STP sticker and all down there today.
Well, Jim, I wish I could answer you that, but I didn't hear a word you said, so
all right.
We'll just pass on to the race.
Okay, tell him good luck in the next race, Roger.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mario, they want to wish you a lot of good luck in the next race.
Thanks very much.
Mario Andretti, who last year won some $363,283. $363,000. Of course, in automobile racing, unlike golf, he doesn't get to keep all of that. On the other hand, unlike horse racing, he gets to keep considerably more than the 10% the jockey usually gets, right?
That's correct. Bobby Unser, the second place man, made more than $100,000 last year, so he had a pretty good season.
The leader is car number 2, right there. Al Unser of Albuquerque, New Mexico. He's never won the USAC national title. He's never won the Indianapolis 500. This could be the year. Right now, he is trying to lap the cars that are his nearest pursuers. In second place, remember, is brother Bobby in car number 3. In third place is Lloyd Ruby in car number 12. And in fourth place, Art Pollard in car number 10.
Oops, a little bobble there in the corner. He had to get on the brakes to avoid running up on another car. He's handling the car beautifully. One of the design differences in the number 2 car over cars he's driven before is that the rear tread is narrower for what they call a better side bite. And there he goes.
There he goes. Down below Lloyd Ruby, trying to lap him. Not quite in command of the situation, but now he is. Okay, and he has lapped now the third place car driven by Lloyd Ruby, number 12.
They are the only 2 all-new cars in today's race at this point, Jim. Both of those cars built expressly for the 1970 season. Ruby's number 12 painted red, white, and blue, and he'll have one of the astronauts in his pit crew at the Indianapolis 500. The number 12 is for the Apollo 12 mission. And it's a colorful car built by Denver sportsman Bill Daniel.
Looks very much like the ski racing helmet of Billy Kidd, as a matter of fact. A touch of the Captain America, Lloyd Ruby's car. Right now, however, we only have 2 cars on the same lap here at Phoenix, and they are driven by the brothers, Al and Bobby Unser. 93 laps have gone by out of a total of 150 scheduled. Chris, we can't quite make it out, but it looks like there might be a little something dripping out the back of Al Unser's car. We might keep a look at that on the next few laps as he comes by. There he is.
We're watching now. The way to handle that, I think, Jim, would be to watch the pit boards that the mechanics are giving them. George Bignati is his crew chief, and he keeps an eagle eye out for such developments. And we'll keep an eye down there on the pit lane to see if George has any word for Al. Question mark, perhaps, fluids. One of those cryptic words that the crew members flash to their drivers in National Championship big car racing.
Okay, well, we're not only communicating with the people at home today, we also are the only line of communication in a sense to our local stations who had planned to see Wide World of Sports, as always, go off at 6:30 Eastern Time in the evening. Well, we're staying on until this race is over. If any of you stations have just picked us up, have just joined us, this is live coverage of the Phoenix 150, the first Indycar race of the year, leading to the Indianapolis 500. The leader is Al Unser, second place is brother Bobby, and third place is Lloyd Ruby. 95 laps have gone by out of a scheduled 150. It's a beautiful, hot, sunny day on the Arizona desert. Not a single remnant of a cloud even to be found anywhere, and a hot sun shining down, the temperature about 80 degrees. The race was stopped earlier, that's why it's taking us much later into the evening to complete it. It was stopped for more than a half an hour when a car driven by Nick Diaguardi, a young driver, spun out on the home stretch, causing 6 or 7 others to go out with him. There's the lead car of Al Unser, Al and Bobby Unser, 1 and 2, then Lloyd Ruby and Art Pollard. Then we have A.J. Foyt in 5th place, but well back. Mike Mosley is 6th. And there is Art Pollard blowing an engine, it looks like, sliding and dropping stuff all over the race course. And the yellow flag has gone out. Art Pollard up between turns 1 and 2. Getting out of the car. Or is he going to let it drop down? Well,
apparently going to let it roll down the bank. Jim, a cool, collected customer. They released the brakes. The car is rolling into the infield, out of danger.
And also saving the men who are going to come across to him from any possible danger while they're running across the track. Art Pollard out of the competition, however, and he had run very well today, was in 4th place when this suddenly happened. The yellow flag out with 45 laps left. We were giving you the standings before. We had A.J. Foyt in 5th. That moves him up to 4th. Mike Mosley is now 5th. Jim McElreath 6th. Steve Krisloff 7th. George Snyder 8th. And Carl Busson 9th. But here is Art Pollard with the racing helmet. A lot of them are favoring. Now you notice it has a piece that comes across your chin as well as across the top of your head and around the eyes. These drivers trying to get more and more protected from the danger of fire and successfully doing it. That started in motorcycles, I believe, Chris, and Dan Gurney certainly was one of the first to use it in automobile racing.
He pioneered it, Jim. He pioneered that full-face helmet in automobile competition, and as you say, many of the drivers are using it. Now, the yellow flag is still out, Jim, and this, of course, doesn't affect Al Unser any because he has a lap on the entire field. But other positions are being closed up now, and we're going to see some battling for positions behind the lead. Lloyd Ruby, for example, now has an opportunity to close up on brother Bobby Unser. Safety cars on the track. Paul Russo, an old-time driver, was a driver of the pace car and may well be in that car now. He had a passenger, a former midget driver, an Indianapolis aspirant, Joe Sostilio from Massachusetts, who's here. This Phoenix race, Jim, always brings a lot of the old-timers around to see what's new in the sport.
And there is Art Pollard walking off the accumulated tension and exhaustion from the race, going so well, and now he's out of it. Very discouraging end to an afternoon for any race driver. And it must have been very, very hot in those race cars during the course of the Phoenix 150. In a moment, we're going to replay what happened to Art Pollard at regular speed, so let's see if we can catch exactly what happened a little better this time. It'll be coming up. You're looking at live coverage right now with the yellow flag out. But stand by. There are the standings. And here is Pollard, as it happened just a couple of minutes ago. Put his hand in the air, you saw immediately, to warn other drivers. A very important move that he made, and one that saved at least that one other car, perhaps.
Well, I've never seen a car do an inside spin that way. He spun to the left. And it looks as though in a few moments we're going to have some racing here. Here they come.
The green flag is out right now from Jim Malone. And Al Unser, of course, is still the clear leader over the field, with about 40 laps to go in this race on the 1-mile track. A wider view, a look from overhead from our mountaintop camera as they come through turns 3 and 4 at Phoenix International Raceway.
That was the 110th mile that the green flag came out on, and exactly 40 laps from the time the flag waved, Jim. We'll see the checkered wave here at Phoenix International Raceway.
And there are the standings at this moment. Al Unser still the leader over brother Bobby. Lloyd Ruby 3rd, and A.J. Foyt now moving up into 4th position. However, those behind Al Unser are going to have to hope, not for misfortune to him, but for some misfortune to slow down his car at least, so that they can move up, because they're just too far behind to catch him, it looks, at this stage of the race. Some 39 laps left to go. There is A.J. Foyt, who's in fourth position right now, the three-time Indianapolis 500 winner, who qualified at good speed today, but said that he thought he was burning a piston while doing that. So his engine is not in top shape. He was very doubtful before the race began as to whether he'd be able to finish or not. Well, so far he's nursing it along pretty good.
He knows how to baby a car as well as drive one very hard. He's a magnificent engineer and mechanic, and he's trying very hard to make this car last. He has a lot of pride in it. He built the engine, assembled it, I should say, in the car himself. He's now in that business of building and assembling and selling the Ford racing engine to fellow competitors. It would look quite bad if he went out of this race because of engine trouble.
That's right. A.J., who, by the way, has just returned from a polar bear hunt. So there you see Al Unser on top and A.J. on the bottom. You were talking to A.J. a little bit before the race. Did he get himself a polar bear?
Yes, he did. He shot himself a 10-foot polar bear, which he plans to have stuffed and put down at his shop in Houston, Texas. They do everything in a big way down in Houston, Jim.
They certainly do. Hope nobody thinks it's a furrier shop. They see that sitting there. Well, there is A.J. Foyt of Houston, Texas. His father raised him to be a racing driver. When he was just a little boy, built him a little imitation race car. And when he was very young, he was out racing midgets and on up to the Indianapolis cars. There is Al Unser again, the lead car in the race, being carefully watched by the pit crew, who are not overly excited at this point, as you can see. They are, as we said, however, watching extremely carefully, you can be sure. A little bit earlier, it looked like something was dripping slowly from Al's car. Then there was smoke for a while, but that seems to have cleared up. But it's a brand new car, and we say they'll be watching it. A good crowd on hand here for the first Indycar race of the season. You'll be seeing a good many of them on ABC as the summer goes by. Not only USAC car races, but also the NASCAR, stock car races, Grand Prix racing, a little bit of everything.
You know, the reason the race is being held on a Saturday here, Jim, is an interesting one that enables us to give our viewers live coverage, is that the new promoter here, Charlie Alexander, is a member of the Mormon faith, and he prefers to do his sporting events on Saturday and reserving Sunday for a day of rest. And all of the events here at Phoenix International Raceway this year have been scheduled on a Saturday rather than on a Sunday in the past.
Well, we're seeing this Saturday race, and there will be others we'll be seeing. We're also going to be seeing some Sunday racing live in a new racing series on ABC Sports. You'll be hearing more about that very shortly. Al Unser touring the course out for a Saturday afternoon ride. On Sunday afternoon this week, you will not be seeing racing on ABC. You will be seeing NBA basketball playoffs. The Baltimore Bullets against the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden in New York. That will be blacked out in New York. Following that, 4 o'clock Eastern and Pacific Time, 3 Central, the American Sportsman. And right now, continued live racing from Arizona. On the 120th lap now, 30 laps remaining in the race.
Unser apparently has slowed down. We've had no reports on the speed of the competition, Jim, but the pressure is definitely off. A one-lap cushion here by Al Unser. And
there is Mrs. Al Unser watching from that little grandstand with many of the other wives of the drivers. An interesting thing when you glance down the field that the tremendous majority of race drivers are married and have families. Comparatively few bachelors among them.
Well, we consider it a sport, and they, of course, look at it, Jim, as a business. They're just working today. It's Wanda Unser from Albuquerque, and twisting her head round and round as Al circles this 1-mile asymmetrical oval.
Al Unser, we mentioned earlier, broke his leg before the Indianapolis 500 when he was fooling around with the motorcycle back at the pits. But he then came on to win 5 races. He won at Milwaukee in August. He won at DuQuoin, Illinois in September 1st. He won at Sacramento at the end of September, at Kent, Washington in the middle of October, and won his last race on November 15th right here in Phoenix, Arizona. That was the one that was stopped by rain and finished the next day. There's the leader again, Bobby Unser, and here is A.J. Foyt, who is back in 4th position right now. And he's more than that behind the leader because he's a full lap behind, plus that. Al Unser the leader, brother Bobby second. The rear-engine race cars so different in appearance than these cars were a comparatively few short years ago. A quick note to our stations around the country here that very shortly we're going to be coming to you for a station break. Not right now, just in a minute. Start to talk about the rear-engine race car. It was right in the beginning of the decade of the 60s that Jack Brabham came over with a very much underpowered Grand Prix race car, raced in the Indianapolis 500, finished 8th, I think it was, Chris, and made everybody sit up and take notice. Within a few years, it was Jimmy Clark coming over, Graham Hill, Jackie Stewart, all the rest, and the whole sport changed.
Well, every car in today's race, with one exception, is rear-engine.
Okay, well, right now, we're very briefly going to go away for that station break we talked about, and we'll be right back. We'll pause for station identification.
A con man courts a spinster bank president thinking it's the safest, shortest way to get the bank's funds. Watch the FBI tomorrow night at 8, 7 o'clock Central Time. Then see Marlon Brando and Jane Fonda starring in The Chase, the Sunday night movie, here on ABC.
22 laps remain in our live coverage of the Phoenix 150 automobile race, the first big race of the 1970 season. Al Unser is the leader in car number 2. His brother Bobby is second in car number 3, and in third place in car number 12 is Lloyd Ruby. A.J. Foyt in number 7 is fourth.
Al is taking it considerably easy now, and Bobby is in the same lap with him. There's the only front-engine car in the race, the number 89 Max and Jeffries Special. This was the kind of car that was the front runner at Indianapolis for many years. George Snyder of Bakersfield, California, is driving that automobile. It has a turbocharged Oppenheimer power plant up in front, and it's a very modern adaptation of the front-engine design, and they hope to get in the Indianapolis 500 with this car come Memorial Day. There you can see the driver sitting back. The engine's up front. It's doing quite well, slowing a little bit down, and it's a new car built late last season.
That's what they used to look like in what many people call the good old days at Indy.
Exactly. Didn't do bad. It qualified 12th fastest.
However, while we had an eye on it, you saw a rear-engine car go past it pretty easily. The big advantage of the rear-engine car is the maneuverability, right, Chris?
Well, that and weight saving, no drive shaft and so forth.
There is Mrs. Unser. This is the mother of the two racers who are running first and second in this race.
She's a great lady, Jim. She follows the boys all over, has been involved in racing all of her life, and seen her husband, a racing driver, now her two sons, and it looks as though one of Al's boys with a go-kart is going to become a race driver.
Takes a lady with a very special kind of philosophy to be able to sit there race after race and watch those boys, I'm sure of that.
I had a chance earlier, Jim, to talk with Al Unser about racing here, and specifically about racing with his brother. Here's what he had to say. Al, you've got a brother in the field with you. Is that a problem for you from a standpoint of a relative or as a competitor?
Just as a competitor, I don't think that Bobby and I run against each other as brothers. We run against each other as competitors towards one another, and of course he's just as hard to beat as Mario or Floyd or somebody like this, and when you beat him, it makes you just as proud or if it's anybody else.
Okay, those were the words of Al Unser on racing against your brother, and there he is out on the racetrack in first place, his brother Welback in second place. Here are the standings at 130 laps. There are less than less than 20 laps to go right now, but the official standings at 1:30 were Al Unser, Bobby Unser, Lloyd Ruby, A.J. Foyt, Mike Mosley, Jim McElreath, Steve Crisloff, George Snyder, Carl Bussin, and Wally Dallenbach. That's the way the cars stand. At this moment, however, there are less than 16 laps remaining in the race, really getting towards the closing stages now. And Al Unser's chances looking better and better to pick up where he left off at the end of last season as a winner.
That's what these fellows are in this business for, Jim. When you ask them what they like most about automobile racing, the answer invariably is winning.
Question of that. Again, the overhead look from the mountaintop camera. Less than 15 laps remaining now. Al Unser with the comfortable lead. Try to show you the relationship between the lead car right here and his brother, who's way over here. There goes Bobby. As you can see, he's a long way behind Brother Al.
I'm sure that Bobby now is conditioned to taking second place. He's got a big lead over the third place man, Lloyd Ruby, in car number 12. A.J. Foyt has moved to fourth, and Mike Mosley, the youngster in car number 9, holds fifth place.
But there are only 2 cars on the same lap, the brothers Unser.
And I asked Bobby Unser, Jim, pretty much the same questions about racing with your brother before the race. And here's what he had to say in reply to that question. Is having a brother on the track a source of concern to you during the race?
Oh, it is in a way, Chris, but it doesn't bother me any, as it doesn't bother Al. Al is a extremely capable driver, as most people know, and he does get better every year, so I feel that he certainly is capable in a way of looking out for himself, and he's certainly a hard driver to beat. So it doesn't really bother me. Now, if something happens to him, I naturally get a little bit concerned.
Those were the words of Bobby Unser. And in the background of these boys was also an older brother who was killed at Indianapolis, which certainly has to enter into their thoughts from time to time.
It's a strange breed, Jim. The sons of racing drivers of days gone by are here. Johnny Parsons, Jr. had hoped to get into the field. Bill Vukovich, Jr., whose father was killed leading the Indianapolis 500, had his car go sour on him during the qualifying runs. And Gary Bettenhausen, of course, was involved in that accident. He lost his dad at Indianapolis. It seems that they follow in what they considered a hallowed and respected tradition.
And the people who come to races have that aspect of it as little in mind as the drivers. Not that they're callous, but there's something about the appeal of wheel-to-wheel racing, a man conquering the possibility of disaster on the racetrack that keeps people coming back. It is past 7 o'clock in the evening in the eastern part of the United States as the race goes on. There are less than 11 laps remaining now in this 150-mile race. Al Unser, the leader, right there. Bobby Unser here is in second place, the only 2 cars on the same lap. In third place is Lloyd Ruby in car number 12, and in fourth place, A.J. Foyt in car number 7. Foyt nursing a car that did not sound too good to him before the race, but nursing it successfully.
A lot of money involved in the competition today, Jim. A $30,000 minimum prize fund. An interesting thing about United States automobile